Hey everyone, welcome to Non-Code Nexus. It's an online talk session for engineering students who are exploring consulting and product management. And we are being honored by an esteemed panel of industry leaders. So glad to have them today on a Friday evening. And let's start with the session.
Yeah. So, a very good evening to everyone present. I'm Divyam Jain, the head of consulting at Consulting and Analytics Club of IIT Guwahati. I welcome you all to this wonderful session and really thank you for giving your valuable time this Friday evening and morning for Mayank there. So, the host for today's event will be Pranjal and Dev from IIT Guwahati and Anirudh and Vansaj from BITS Goa. So, I'd like them to introduce themselves.
Hello everyone, I am Pranjal Soni, associate at Consulting and Analytics Club IITG. As one of the hosts of today's event, I'm excited to welcome our esteemed speakers and look forward to this productive and insightful session.
Hi guys, I'm Anirudh Hegde, Senior Consultant at BITS Goa Consulting Club. Really excited to host today's session with our esteemed panel of guests.
Hello everyone, I'm Dev Shukla, Associate at CNA. I'm very excited for this event. I'm sure it will be very helpful for all the students watching it.
Hello everyone, I'm Vanshaj Budolia, Senior Consultant here at Bitskova Consulting Club. As your host for today, I'm looking forward to an insightful evening filled with learnings.
Now, I'll be introducing our first speaker of the day of this event, Mayank Goyal, sir, a distinguished management consultant at McKinsey and Company in Chicago, USA, with an impressive background that includes being an alumnus of Triple E branch of IIT Guwahati, graduating in the 2012 batch, and earning his MBA from the esteemed Kellogg School of Management, Illinois. Mayank embodies the pinnacle of excellence in the consulting world with over 10 years of dynamic experience. He has consistently driven impactful business strategies and operational transformations across various sectors, including life sciences, e commerce, consumer packaged goods, and technology. Mayank has held pivotal leadership roles at top organizations such as ITC and OYO, where he managed multi-million dollar projects and scaled operations across India and China. Today, we are excited to tap into his wealth of knowledge and experience. Not wait to hear his insights. Let's give a warm welcome to Mayank Goyal.
Thank you. I'm also very excited to share my learnings and insights with you guys.
I'm excited to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Shravan Tickoo, alumni of IIT Roorkee and the current founder of Rethink Systems. At Rethink Systems, Shravan is redefining the startup ecosystem to build a platform that not only nurtures skilled thinkers and operators, but also serves as a foundational tool for anyone looking to innovate in their field. With over 9 years of experience at renowned companies like Flipkart, Blackbuck, and Banzu, Shravan has successfully trained over 500 professionals who now work at industry giants like Microsoft and Google. He was also a visiting professor at Masters Union and has been a guest speaker at prestigious institutions worldwide. With a strong following of 140,000 on LinkedIn and over 2.2 million views on YouTube, Shravan walks through the intricacies of the product management role and interview preparation through his channel Swagwala PM, where he simplifies this career field for college students and corporate professionals. An active angel investor in over 15 startups, Shravan believes in the power of collective growth and user centric product development. We're honored to have him here today. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. It's always lovely to speak to students. Takes me back to my college days. Lovely to be here. Awesome.
Our next guest is Tushar Garg, an accomplished professional with extensive experience in the consulting industry. After completing his undergraduate studies at IIT Guwahati, he transitioned to pursue MBA from IIM Bangalore, where he has further honed his skills and passion for business studies. During his time at IIM, he interned at BCG and went to join in full time, starting as a senior associate in 2020. Over the years, he has worked on diverse projects ranging from new product development to large-scale turnaround cases, rapidly progressing to his current role as a project leader. Alongside his professional journey, fun fact, he is also the founder of our consulting club in IIT Guwahati. We welcome you here, sir. We are very excited to hear about your whole journey and experience.
Thank you so much, Dave. And being back to Consulting and Analytics Club is more exciting than being back to IIT Guwahati. I really am looking forward to this. Really good seeing you guys, raising this club to this height. Thank you.
Now, we are thrilled to welcome Karuna Manchanda ma'am, Principal Product Manager at Microsoft, as one of our speakers. Ma'am holds a BTech in Information Technology and brings over a decade of experience in the internet industry with 9 years dedicated to product management. Her journey is a testament to her skills and resilience, having achieved success without a traditional Tier 1 background. Notably, she built a 0 to 1 product at Wingify, taking it from concept to over 1 million in annual recurring revenue. Her diverse experience spans roles in B2B companies like Wingify and Directi, as well as B2C giants like Swiggy and LinkedIn. Beyond her work, Ma'am is also a committed mentor and coach, sharing her insights and guiding aspiring product managers. We are honored to have her with us. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm equally honored and very happy to be in such an esteemed group of panel also. Thank you.
Yes. So let's kickstart this session with some common questions based on consulting and product, which you all will be answering. So the first question: how similar are the entry-level positions in consulting and product management in terms of interview preparation, resume pointers, recruiter seekers, soft skills, and more? I would any of you can start first, and we want all of your views on this.
Yeah, I'm happy to share my perspective. I think so. In my mind, the entry level roles are very similar, but the preparation might look a little bit different, right? When you're talking about consulting, you need to do a little bit of case prep that is a little different from product management case prep, right? Your behavioral interviews are also a little bit different. They are more focused on challenges, etc., and difficult times that you faced with, teams or your coworkers, etc., right? But in terms of, what capabilities and skills you need to be successful, I would say they are very similar. It is more about your passion and where you feel strongly that you want to create impact, that you prep for that particular role, right? I think that is my perspective. I would ask others to kind of add their color to it.
Absolutely. So what I would do is I would add to what Mayank was saying. I think entry level roles is always about that pizzazz or that X factor that you want to kind of bring to the table. What I mean by that is that there are some very basic principles like, are you analytical? Can you break down a problem in a structured manner, right? Do you show the ability to be moldable, right? Do you have a point, right? Are you able to communicate well? So it is about noting down those sparks in an individual, which gives me the sense of that, or any interviewer the sense of that this person can come, understand a problem from a discovery point of view, figures out what the problem is, and then ships it out, right? That is also a very important skill set, right? And that is something that is super critical that you kind of test in a PM interview. That's why you end up giving something abstract, and then you tell the person to break it down. There is no right or wrong answer. It's just a way, how do you structure your conversation, how meaningful it is, and do you understand the problem right? And I think these principles, if they come from any sort of background, it doesn't have to be background specific. It has to be very intent driven, passion driven, right? That you come to the interview prepared, you do your discovery beforehand. I think if those principles are kind of structurally aligned, then whatever the background that you're coming from, you can move into the product role. It is, but I would leave it open for other people to essentially add to what I essentially said.
I can probably go next. And speaking specifically about product management roles, I think one of the most important questions for entry level is, how do I even get my resume shortlisted? I don't have product experience on my resume. I think the number one thing I tell to all juniors and upcoming product managers is just go ahead and build a product of your own. I know that sounds fairly technical, but Shravan, we have here, he's built like a following on YouTube. That is also a product, it's a business. He's identified his target audience. He's found that go to market fit between what he's selling or what he's teaching and what the audience wants. So, anything that you can put out in the market, it could be a service, it could be a real product, and you don't have to be really technical for that per se. It'll help you set yourself apart from the industry, right? Any certifications, any courses, almost everybody in your batch would do. But what can really set you apart is, can you do some live project of your own? Can you share your learnings, if nothing, on say LinkedIn or Instagram or YouTube or some ways? Can you go ahead and sell a physical product, right? And just establish that understanding of user, understanding of pain point in the market, and understanding of a business mindset, right? So it's very important to start emulating what you would be doing in an actual industry in your role as a product manager by sitting and doing something of your own to begin with, that gives the company a the confidence that this person understands what product building is, and b, you yourself also get a taste of it by just building it and working alongside a team who will help you to do many different things that you want to achieve. I'll give it to Tushar to add his perspective
Just to
as well.
add to what
Okay.
Taruna had said, just sorry, Tushar, I'm taking up your
No,
space.
no.
Just a minute. The one thing that she rightly said is that intent is also a very strong anchor point, because building up a product even before you go to an interview shows intent that you really want to be there. You really understand what the interviewer essentially wants from you. So I think all the points which everybody said, the esteemed panel said, makes so much sense. But yeah, it also is an anchor of intent, because shipping is a very important quality for a product manager. Yes. Tushar, over to you. Yes.
Yeah, sure. I guess one way to think about how you can stand out, or not even stand out, how you can cater to what interviewer might be looking forward to, is simply thinking what do they look into their own firm, in their own employees when they work, right? It's not much different. See, I'll tell you, all of these folks are day in, day out evaluating a lot of individuals, right? So they're not going to evaluate you on a new set of parameters. Mostly those parameters are very similar. Those three, four pillars I can tell you for consulting is one major, and I think forms 70% of your evaluation part, is problem solving. Do you have that knack of problem solving? You can showcase that through different ways. Yes, consulting has a set way of doing it through case interviews, and that's where your problem solving is tested. I think that's the most important for you guys, specifically. There are other pillars of how do you communicate, articulate, how do you manage a client, etc. To be honest, even in the entry level associates, we don't look that as the key parameter and metric. So the most important part is problem solving. If you tick that box really well, we are happy to make you learn all the other things as you grow within the firm. I think apart from that, the conversation on intent, I would actually sum it up as a mix of intent as well as how you click. I mean, however hard you can try, you can go for these three, four parameters, do everything well, but it's sometimes just clicking with the interviewer, and this is very personal. I mean, just leave some room for luck slash clicks slash personal bonding. That will always happen. The one advice that I always give to my juniors is always have your introduction with some personal element also. Don't just keep it professional. I've done these case studies, I've done this, that, 10 people who came before you also have done that. Creative shock. I know all of you participate in creative shock,
What?
right? All of you would have done that who get into a room with a consulting giant. Do something, say something which is truly yours and truly your personal. Like when I go into an interview, I always speak about my cricket, my playing experience, my watching experience, everything. If the person in front is really interested in that, he'll talk about it, otherwise he'll ignore it. But that's okay. Don't create it, don't fake it, but do bring in that. You never know, if it clicks, it really doesn't matter how you perform in the rest of the interview then sometimes.
I think yeah, that's a great point, Tushar. One more thing I would add that I think we have kind of not spoken here is networking. right? Just even before you get to the interview, it's important for you to understand what the firm looks like, what are the different roles in the company, what are the kind of day-to-day challenges that people face there, right? And for you to kind of build a network in that company, I think especially for consulting, that is a very important factor for you to get an initial interview call. And it's also for you to kind of understand how your experience will be when you are in that company, right? So I would say connect with more people, talk to them about their experience of working, challenges that they face, their favorite projects, right? How they transitioned from their background to consulting, etc. And kind of network your way up, right? Like talk to the associates, engagement managers, senior consultants, and if once you have a little bit of an understanding, also talk to a couple of senior people in the company to understand what how the growth trajectory looks like, and how do you kind of grow in that firm, what are the most important elements. I think that is very important. And networking is very specific to like what office or what region you want to join, right? Like network into that particular office, that particular region. So once your resume kind of shows up to the recruiter, he or she already knows your name. They know that this person has shown the intent, as everyone has talked about. This person understands what consulting is about, and based on that understanding, this person is interested in the role, right? So that will help you back that initial interview, and after that it's all about your prep for case interviews, problem solving, communication, packaging, and as Shravan called it, shipping. In consulting we might call it, how do you communicate it out to the clients, right? How do you build your recommendation for the clients, right? So then it's about all those skills. But getting that initial interview itself is a very important part of finding the job.
Yeah, I think very, 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 very valid point. And since Mayank kind of brought this up, I think having a brand also helps, right? What I mean by having a brand is that probably whatever you ship out, right, or whatever you say, it is about not about writing LinkedIn posts or probably starting a blog. It's about the interview knowing you before he knows you, before you even enter the room, right? And oh, isko to maine kahin dekha hai. I've seen this person somewhere, or I've read something about him, right? Or I have some sense of how the person thinks, right? Whenever you have something of a unique point in the interview, like a lot of times I also talk about that I did bug hunting, which is again an interesting point to just have a conversation on. So it makes the other person feel, oh, this person stands out of the crowd, right? And I think that is something that you have to, but more deeply, how I want to kind of put across is all of these roles, right? You want to excel in consulting or product management or entrepreneurship in general. These are ambiguous roles. These are roles where problems are not straightforward, right? You have to figure out, you have to deconstruct those problems. So one of the things that you have to really start thinking from today is that failures are imminent. They're going to happen, right? There might be an interview in which you prepared really, really well, and in the last day, the interview just didn't click, right? So you have to really think of failure more as from a point of feedback, that what didn't go well, and you do it over a period of time. It's like I keep saying this, that growth is underrated in like short term and sorry underrated in long term and overrated in short term. So people typically, if they don't crack their first interview or they don't get their shortlist in the first 2 months, they feel probably it's not for me. So you have to keep fixing on the fact that it is the known unknowns that I have, that do I have a good enough blog, do I have a resume in which I have some speaking points which stand out, have I networked with 7 8 product managers and tried to come to them and maybe reached out to 60 and 5 responded and I spent time there, did I do my discovery over there? So if you do all of those things and do it over a period of time and you're smart enough, the role will be yours. Yeah.
Yeah, those are very insightful views. Now, as Shravan sir mentioned about entrepreneurship, our next question is, for someone with product management and consulting experience, what are the best ways to explore entrepreneurial opportunities or transition into the startup ecosystem? I'd start with you, Shravan sir, and then all of you can give in your views too.
I think the most unemployed person would speak the first. So yeah, I'll try to take that question for you. Great. So I think the one thing that you have to really kind of understand is that Entrepreneurship basically means that is there something meaningful that you're solving for the end user, right? And the end user is willing to pay for it, right? Again, a lot of people tell me that I do want to start an idea and there are these 500 people who have shown interest. That means nothing. You have to understand that somebody, unless that person swipes the card, does not show intent. So what you really have to understand is most problems start from what are your observation skills. Like, look at Dipinder Goyal. Like, a lot of people kind of speak about him. He once went out to Domino's and get the pizza, so he started something, got the inspiration from there, and essentially started Food eBay. So I think the first thing that, which is again very philosophical, and you're young students in college, and I know for a fact that back then when people used to tell me about it, right, I probably never used to listen, is that you should develop empathy. And empathy comes from the fact that do you have good observational skills? Are people around you, are you able to see problems which are genuine to other people, which probably people don't notice? Like, and that starts from this principle, do you listen well? So if you have that empathy of being people, listening to their problems, understanding what is meaningful to people and how relevant is the problem, and build up a hypothesis. Today is the world, as Taruna said, it's not a world in which you have to spend $100,000 on engineering and come up with something very, very meaningful. You can come up with a very basic $10 landing page and say, this is the type of problem that I really want to solve for, and I feel it's meaningful. And you go and test it with a target persona that you have. You might still be wrong in your target persona, but still, the cost of doing that experiment is very less. Once you see some kind of intent, then you essentially see that how do I essentially take it to a point where people are willing to pay for it. I'll give you a very good example. Maybe like you started this consulting and analytics club, right? If you really want to see and you want to make it self-sustaining, that there is a room for mentors and people who have graduated, and are students willing to pay for it, right? For that mentorship, that they want that personalized guidance. Is there real some value in that idea, right? And you can test that out with a very small set and you iterate from there. Another thing that you have to be very cautious about, especially if you want to move into entrepreneurship, is a lot of your hypotheses will break. It is not that what you think is what will happen. It is very similar in product management, but since the scope really, really moves across, because now you don't have to only think about what you do in the product. You also look from a commercial side of it, that am I able to make money out of it? Is it worth my time, right? And I'm doing all of those things. That's the second bit that you have to start thinking from a systems perspective. And again, what I mean by systems perspective is think from every dimension so that you can reduce the unknown unknowns in your product. That's the second thing. And I think the third and most important bit is that slowly and steadily, if you develop the ability to prioritize, you come up with a problem, you say that out of these 10 things that somebody who is in my target persona who I want to solve for, these three are relevant. And why these three are relevant, you come up with some kind of heuristics around it. If you have these three things aligned, that you come up with some kind of a problem statement which you feel is meaningful, which you have really heard, right? And it's not, people don't tell their needs to you on a platter. You have to really go deep and really try to understand what what is the core problem that I'm solving for. That's one. Figure out the why. The second thing, the cost of delivery of that service does not have to be very high, right? You can come up with a very small experiment and try to see that whether that is meaningful to that person. And based on that experiment, whatever feedback you do, you essentially try to prioritize so that at least the persona that I'm looking for or the people that I'm looking for, they get the most value out of it. If these three check boxes you initially tick, you'll get some sense of the fact that whether that idea is meaningful, at least to that audience. Whether that is scalable or not, that's a secondary question that you come up for the next time. So I think that's the first place where you start from. Have that ability to listen to people, have that ability to observe, have that ability to understand that there are problems which people will not tell you upfront. So write them down, probably break them down and come up with the why around it and figure out why somebody needs this kind of a service or this kind of a product in their life. It's not one. The last thing that before I kind of shut up and give other people the opportunity to speak is that you have to really understand that sometimes the best way to gain control is to give control. And that is what an entrepreneur does very well, right? That give that ability where people can speak their heart to you and say anecdotally that something changed for me. Something would change for me if you solve that kind of a problem. Yeah, please. Yes.
I can tell you a couple of things, very, very tactically, right? There are three paths that I see people take. One is you directly get into entrepreneurship. People who are really passionate about a product, about a problem that they are solving, you directly get into entrepreneurship. You try to solve that problem. You will fail, you will succeed. It will be a hard, tumultuous journey, but it'll be worth it if you're really passionate about it. Second path is you work in either a product management or a consulting firm, and you learn the ropes. You learn how to slice and dice a problem. You learn how to build a strategy. You learn how to structure a problem really well, right? And you take that skill to an already existing startup or an organization that you are passionate about, right? Whether it is Zomato or it is Oyo Rooms or it is Uber or whatever organization you want to join, you will be highly employable once you learn those basic skills, and you will have high demand in the market, right? Because everyone wants to have people who can solve complex problems. And the third path is you learn the role and then you start your own company, you start your own firm, right? And what I have at least read, what research actually shows is, if work actually before you want to like start something. But if you're really, really passionate about, like, go for it, start something. You find a problem in the market, and those are the most successful entrepreneurs we talk about, right? We talk about Rajesh Agarwal, who just started, dropped out of college, started something right away, right? We talk about Devendra, whoever. Those are the most successful people, right? But you can choose between these three paths. Nothing is right and wrong, right? You can either start something right away, you can join a company, join a consulting or product management firm, and then go to a company after that. You'll be highly employable. Or third, you can join a product management consulting company and then start something of your own once you know how to build a product or how to solve problems.
I can probably go next. I think Shravan and Mayank have already like captured a lot of interesting points. I think I
Also, Taruna,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I had one question for you. So, like many students are now curious about careers involving AI and digital transformation. So, what can they do during their undergrad to gain relevant experience for roles in these areas?
Sure. I think for one of the most important things for AI specifically is just experiencing that magic once. Because once you experience the magic, it's very hard to go back. So I've seen like there are two types of people in the industry right now, people who are extremely skeptical, scared, fearsome that, oh, this will take my job away. The second kind of people who are actually using AI and harnessing all the intelligence from it to make their own life easier. Um, I should not be admitting this in front of everybody, but let me share an example. So I recently did this 20 hours course on product management, and this university asked me to come up with like a structure and a framework and case studies and questions to engage the students and whatnot. I literally put all the data possible in ChatGPT and came up with like a 20-page structure in 5 minutes, and it was magic, right? So you have to be experiencing this magic every day in your life, find out those avenues where it will be useful, and then naturally your mind will start gearing in that direction where you would find a lot more use cases to apply AI and to be even building things that can harness the power of AI. So for you, for now, it could be very simple. Let's say you want to start a post on LinkedIn. Go ahead and use AI to sort of figure out what that could be. You're about to read a book, figure out what other influencers are saying about that book or what are the interesting things about that book. So start using AI forcefully, I would say, in your day-to-day life, and then it would start coming in naturally, even if it's very simple things like writing your case studies or your emails. And please do not be scared that this will take away my ability or my talent. I'm sure, like many, many years ago, when calculators were introduced, a lot of people would have been threatened. Hey, I can multiply 367 by 47823 in my head. Why should I use a calculator to do it? There's a lot of ego so many of us have in these situations. So I think let go of your ego. You are better off multiplying that huge numbers in seconds using a machine and using that creative energy into something else, right? So if you are using AI to solve some of these mundane tasks for you, or do some of these things that you would want an assistant to do for you, you would really have the time and energy to up level your game and be thinking about much bigger things, right? So my suggestion always is just like use it forcefully, even if you don't see a use case, just figure out something or just talk to ChatGPT like 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day. And I'm sure like there'll be a moment when you'll experience magic, and from there you would not want to go back.
Really great perspective, definitely. Also, I wanted to know if any of the speakers would like to speak more on this topic.
No, I second that actually. And Taruna, thanks for sharing that example for the university. I would say it's actually in your life as well. I mean, I think I don't know how many of you have used Meta AI on your WhatsApp already. I mean, I find it crazy. I mean, like, I have planned gifts for my spouse on that. I have planned weddings. I have had ideas of everything that I could possibly spend at least 30 minutes doing on Google or anything. So I think I find it simply very convenient. It gives me a list of shops that I really would go while standing in a mall. I don't have to figure out. There's so many use cases, as Taruna said, right? You can find it out. You just have to put that extra creativity or effort in your mind. So I really feel that is not only professionally, but personally going to impact all of us a lot. And coming to the point, what you guys can do, of course, as Taruna said, being in the thick of it, experiencing it gives you first-hand lessons. But also, you can stay on top of the news. Like I'm sure there must be many AI newsletters or AI, websites where you can just sort of have a habit of engaging with them every now and then, even subscribe to some of those, and you're on top of the news, and that makes a lot more difference than other candidates in an interview of those kind of fields, because I think these are the buzzing fields which require you to be on top of what is going on. So yeah, those are the 2 cents for me.
Another thing
Mayank Bhaiya,
I just
I
want to,
you want yeah.
yeah, absolutely, please. I
You
just wanted
fine.
to add one small point here, which I think Taruna also mentioned, is that 80% of the tasks that you do in product management are going to be mundane. You probably should know that we don't always do interesting things, right? There are just 2 out of 10 problems which are like super interesting, super valuable. So the AI part, think of it like a co-pilot, right? It's like Stack Overflow, what it did for, right? It's very similar to that. If you can figure out those things can be shelved out, and you can save like 30-40% of your time, it not doing that Excel analysis and AI helping you doing that, right? You will be able to spend the most valuable part of your time on those 2 problems which are going to be super super critical for you. So it saves you a lot of time, right? And you don't have to be AI experts, you have to be AI fluent. So if it helps you solve your use case, there are 2 aspects, like PMs using AI to become better PMs, or AI PMs that building AI products. Not talking about building AI products, that might still require some level of depth, right? But you should leverage AI, and agnostic of whether you're a consultant or you're a PM, you're a program manager, whatever you do, it's going to make you better operators in general. Yeah. Sorry to hijack that. Yeah, Mayank, please. Over to you.
Yeah. So Mayank sir, having like done recently a project on AI as sorry on LinkedIn. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we I can tell you a little bit about like what we did. So I work a lot with pharma clients, with life sciences clients, right? So we built a generative AI model for them to go through all of their history of what do we call like deviations, what is basically the difference from what the documented process is and what you actually conducted on the shop floor, right? So all of those have to be documented and then analyzed. You have to do a root cause analysis. You have to launch a corrective and preventive action based on like what went wrong and why the procedure was not followed, right? And that is a very tedious task for all of these life sciences companies. So we built a very simple generate AI product which goes through all of your previous deviations history, which goes through all of your SOPs and procedures, and kind of comes up with on the spot, if you enter a problem, it will tell you, hey, these can be 3 4 reasons, this is what was done in the past, this is what you can do in the future, this is the type of information that you want to collect from the shop floor to analyze it further, right? So this is a very simple use case that we deployed, and it solves a huge problem for companies. But uh, my take is there AI can do a lot and lot of things, right? And as Tushar, Tarun, and Shravan rightly said, one thing is about experiencing it, thinking about the use cases that the AI can solve for, right? The other thing can be talking to some of the product managers, some of the people, who have done this in the past, and kind of asking them what their experiences were, and how they leverage AI to create impact, right? The third thing that you can kind of do is, if you can try to build something of your own, even if it is a very very simple thing, right? Like, and everything is available online these days, right? You can leverage the tools that are available online, you can leverage the GPT platforms that are already available, and if you can try to build something of your own, that deepens your understanding, that shows your intent and passion, sets you up really right for bigger roles in the future, right? One of the things that I didn't do in my undergrad, which I could have done better, is learn. At that time it was like SQL, right? Like, learn SQL, right? I could have learned SQL a little bit better, that could have helped me more in my job. I could have learned Power BI, right? Those were the tools that were prevalent at that time, right? I would say the tools that are prevalent today, it is good to get some experiential learning, try to build something from those tools, try to solve a simple problem, and that'll really set you up for success.
Pranjal, I think you're on mute. If
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if it answers the question. Happy to shed some more
Yeah.
light if needed.
Oh, yes, sir. Very well, rightly said. So moving on to the next question. Yes. What are the differences in the scope of conflicts in internal stakeholder alignments between big tech and unicorns? Like, given that the consultants primarily interact with external stakeholders and product managers focus more on internal stakeholders, how do the skills required for managing these relationships differ? And what strategies have you found most effective in each role? I would like if Tushar Bhaiya could answer that first.
Tushar, I
Please,
think
Amar.
you're also on mute.
Sorry, sorry. Thank you for reminding. I was just wrapping my head around the number of questions in one question that was there. So, I mean, first of all, just to make it clear, there is indeed a lot of internal stakeholder, management within consulting, and I'm sure there would be a lot of external stakeholder management in product as well. But yeah, as rightly said, how do you I think how do you go about it, or how do I'm not sure how big tech and all of the those kind of firms do it. Maybe Taruna or Shravan could be better suited to answer it. But I mean, it's again simple for me. I think it's about reading personal ambitions. To be honest, the one of the key things that I have learned while graduating from the universities to actually being in the job is it is not all about what's going throughout the day, an Excel sheet and a deck. It's actually about when you deal with stakeholders. It's actually about reading what do they actually want from that conversation. So when we go into a meeting, what we really carve out is not how we will present this page or that page. Of course, that is basics, but we map the stakeholders. This is the CEO, this is the CEO minus one, and this is that. How do you cater to their ambitions, and what do they look forward to this in this meeting and going forward? I think those are the important questions to answer as you go into the job, and I don't think you guys have to worry about it right now. You will only learn it in the job. Yeah, I think that's where I'll stop and I'll pass it over to Tarun and Shravan for better insights.
I think I would love for hear Taruna's views first. So yeah, for sure.
I, yeah, I can probably go next. I think after 10 years of lot of like alignments, debates, fights, I should admit, what I've learned is a couple of things. First is that you should genuinely be aware of what the other person's motivation is, what they are looking for in this deal or in this conversation. So if you're dealing with an engineer or a designer, an engineer is first thinking, am I working on a very complex problem statement? A designer is first thinking, am I working on something which is user centric? Can I change users' perception of this product through it? As a product manager, you're trying to balance all these things. So the number one thing is to genuinely understand what everyone's motivation is. And motivations, I spoke about product or business led motivations, but there are also personal motivations. Sometimes somebody is looking at a promotion which is due in the next 3 to 6 months, and they really badly want to shine in a particular project, right? Or they're going through something and they want to like take a little slow, and they're not really getting into so much debates, etc. So you really have to understand people's motivations, the impact that they're trying to make clearly, well, to be able to work with them in a way which is harmonious for everybody, yet you understand what the end goal is so that you can communicate that end goal to everybody in their own language. The second I've learned is that communication is extremely important as a skill, and you should be able to deliver bad news without becoming the bad person. You should be able to deliver difficult conversations without being difficult to work with. So you should be able to do many difficult things without people raising an eyebrow that, oh, this is not a person I enjoy working with, right? So it doesn't really mean that you keep agreeing to everybody, you keep nodding your head in every conversation, but it just means that you should be able to do all these difficult things in a pleasant way where nobody takes any meaning out of it in a personal way, but rather understands that this is all business driven or product driven or goal driven, right? The third thing, very cringe to admit, but you have to be end of the day likable. It cannot be that you're not somebody who is likable and you're trying to do big things. Just does not work. At least not in a company setup where there are 20, 30 different stakeholders, all coming with different motivations, all coming with different skill set. You have to forge real, genuine relationships. And those real, genuine relationships can only come in when you've gone through the ups and downs, difficult times together, right? So you should have seen failures together, you should have had debates, but then you should know how to get out of it. And that is when the other person builds a confidence that, oh, whatever may happen, this person is there by my side, right? So as a team, always be like squibbling, fighting, debating, everything. But when you go outside, you're presenting to a manager or you're presenting to somebody senior, you are all together. And that is one what genuine likability means, that you genuinely enjoy working with your team, you genuinely want to take everybody ahead along with you, and you're not stepping on anybody's shoulders or anybody's legs, or you're not pushing anybody under the bus when you really didn't intend to. So you have to be like genuinely a good person, I've realized, end of the day, to be able to manage many, many different people well in an environment which is cutthroat, which is aggressive, where people are like pushing and pulling and wanting to do things for their own personal benefits also many times. I'll pass it on.
100%. I think I love the answer, Taruna. Well, this is such a nice thing to say that you have to be a good person. I think people generally undermine the value of the value system that you carry, right? That are you kind enough? Are you generous enough to essentially understand what the other person is saying? So I will just reiterate 2, 3 points which are very similar to what Taruna said. One, that people don't work for you, they work with you, and it's their own motivation, right? So as a product manager, it's the translation of their motivations, right? And how do you do that, and how do you align that with business goals, right? What is in it for you, right? What will it change for you? That's the first thing that you have to do. The second thing is the context of storytelling, right? That do you set a very objective agenda in front of 10 different stakeholders, that you say that this is what we want to achieve in the long term, right? And this is where we focus. So if you are able to kind of break that down into objective statements, right? A lot of times we say abstract things, right? A very good product manager is someone who breaks down that abstraction, puts it into like objective structures so that everybody can think very well. I'll give you a very good example of this. For example, if you want to say that, oh, I want to improve the net promoter score or the happiness of my client or the product that I'm making or the customer. Now it's a very abstract thing to say, right? What you can essentially all say is probably break it down as I really want to improve relevant engagement in my product, which might be their usage of a certain type of product, their time spent on a particular product, or specifically their utility in terms of how the payment experience is there. If you can break down that abstraction, put it in front of all 5 different types of stakeholders, that's also a second very meaningful thing. And the third and the most important thing that you really have to do is leaders are not someone with leaders written on their bio. Leaders are people who lead. That's how their behavior is, right? So a lot of times what you have to do is, like, for example, if there is a developer who is sitting with you and you don't understand the complexity of the solution that the person is putting across, you take a step back, go back, do your discovery, understand it to a certain extent, come back in the next meeting and put out that context. That shows to the other person that this person did not take my words very lightly, or this person is not the center of attention, right? That person did an effort to essentially show that I do understand what your problem is, and it is your intent a lot number of times which essentially tells the person, oh yes, this is the kind of person I want to be with, right? So the third thing that you have to do is pick up that trash that nobody's trying to do, right? And you pick that up and you show that if there is a problem for you, I'm there for you, right? And that is the third ability that you come from a very, very strong human perspective. If you really want, like, as product managers, the output of a product manager is not really their output, it's the output of their team. And one of my first managers, he always used to say, it's not about what you've got, it's what you make of what you've got, right? And that is something that product managers thrive on. So you really, really have to develop those human values, how you talk, how you conduct yourself. And it's absolutely okay to fail, because I have been miserable. I have not been the best of PMs for a lot of people, right? But over time, as I learned, I choose my words very wisely. I try to make them more inclusive to people. And that is where a lot of people will come up and say that we want to support you, we want to help you, and to build out some meaningful outcomes which is relevant for the PM, for the organizations, and for them in their careers. I think that's just my 2 cents that I wanted to add across. Yeah.
No, that is a great perspective, Shravan. Yeah, I think all of the things very rightly said cannot emphasize the importance of personal relationships, understanding the motivations and the agenda of the other person in front of you enough. One more thing that I would like to add is, preparation. Preparation is very important. Thinking about what can be the questions that the other person can ask on their motivations, based on their what they are looking for, right? Preparing enough and knowing in depth about the topic that you're speaking about, right? Having that right context and having that right understanding is very important, right? If you are able to answer most of the questions that the other person is asking or looking for, I think that will really help align. One, you are likable, you know the person, that this person knows you, you're presentable, etc. Preparation is one more thing that I would like to add there.
So well, rightfully said, all of you. Like we are highly getting a lot of takeaways actually from this. So now we'll start with some domain specific questions, like which domain, which will get cater all the domains. So we'll start with consulting first. So this question is for Mayank here. So the first question is, for someone aiming to transition from engineering into consulting, what foundation skills should they focus on developing during their undergraduate studies?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if you're going from engineering to consulting, right, and a lot of people in consulting have engineering background as well. It's a very, very good background to have, given
Camera
the
off.
analytical skills that you will develop, right? But if you are looking to transition, one thing about like skills is basically, they are looking for intrinsic problem solving skills, communication skills, and I would say co-working skills, or working with your teammates, working with your people, right? I would say what you can do to display those skills tactically you can show your involvement in all of the different clubs and activities that you lead, right? And show that you either are passionate about consulting or you have really tried to work with different people to build that co-working skill, right? So I think that is one thing that you can show to display that skill, right? In terms of your problem solving skills, it is more about how do you do in your case interviews. And there I would say practice really helps. So the more problems that you can think of, how do you structure those problems, how do you think about a comprehensive framework and comprehensive set of ideas and solutions when you are thrown a problem, right? So practice helps with case interviews, right? The For your behavioral interviews, it's more about introspecting, finding those challenging movements in your life and how do you create an impact, how do you motivated the other person. That is the other thing, right? So I would say there is like, in terms of the prep that you need to do, there is nothing much apart from showing intent, getting yourself involved. And then, if you really want to do something, I would say it helps to prepare for those interviews and for those discussions. I think that is tactically more helpful.
Okay, so I have the next question is for Tushar Bhaiya. Uh, since you're the founder of our consulting club, and it is one of the most reputed club in our college now. My question, starting a club, very difficult. You have to connect like a lot of alums and all. That's why my question is, ki, how did you connect with the alumni when building the consulting club? And what advice do you have for the students to effectively reach out to the busy professionals?
Okay. I think this takes me back to my 2015 days and starting this club. A lot of nostalgia, a lot of emotions. I'll try to control the emotions and get to the answer. But yeah, this was one major part, connecting to the alumni and bringing them as the face. Because one, I was thinking as an entrepreneur that how do I sell the club, because it was not a part of the technical board that time. So it was necessary to get the club really, come out as a meaningful entity in the campus. And I think I knew in the longer term it will eventually come out, and that's what has happened. I'm glad to see that. But during that initial years, you have to convince each of the stakeholders, and that's where the alumni became as a very, very important aspect. Now, coming to the question of how did you grab their attention, how do you reach out to them, etc. I think I'm just recalling. I am not prepared for this answer, I guess. But one thing was, of course, hustling. Hustling is definitely involved. You have to scroll through tons of LinkedIn profile, or whoever you have heard in your. So I remember, yeah, having some of the seniors who knew some of the other seniors in IITs, because all of these firms, McKinsey, BCG, etc., used to go into IIT Bombay, Delhi, etc. So connecting to the seniors of the other IITs was one very, very meaningful segue to connecting with this alumni, because these guys were already in there. You could have spoken to them easily. They were your level only and all of that. So yeah, that was one through them, through LinkedIn. And then there were some surprising ones. When you email to these guys, somehow if you find the email IDs, or even if you write on the LinkedIn, it's not that all your messages will go unnoticed. And I'll tell you that story. One of the current senior partners at BCG actually wrote me back with a lot of enthusiasm that I would love to be part of this, and that lit my eyes, and that made me actually feel like I'm not alone now anymore. And that's where actually most of the journey started, to be honest. When we connected with a couple of those alumni, and when they agreed upon doing a session with the students, and eventually it turned out into a good recruiting opportunity at the campus as well. That was like a magnificent achievement in the span of 4 or 5 months of having this idea. So I feel being a hustler is important at your stage. And today, and 2015 has a lot of difference in terms of online connectivity. Okay, so you can actually reach out to anyone at different platforms. Of course, avoid Instagram, but I feel you would be able to really connect to these guys easily through these hustles. Do connect to other IITs, or even now your IIT own alumni are there who are associates in these firms. So I think, yeah, that is how you reach out.
Actually, I have another quick question. Did your IIT background influence your experience at IIM, or was it a completely different journey?
Okay, interesting. I would say not really. The set of people at IIM Bangalore were, of course, diverse. There was still a large population of engineers, but not really that had anything to do with the activities on the campus. On the campus of IIM Bangalore, I think I had a very different experience, much more focused, I would say, on the outcome and objectives, while IIT experience was much more laid back and relaxed and thinking about brainstorming about possibilities of the world in every aspect. And I think the other things that I would say did not really require any influence from the engineering or IIT background is there was a lot of new activities which I never saw in the past in or heard. So, for example, there was a lot of experiential learning, which generally doesn't happen a lot in the engineering segment. You're giving exams, you're having some experiential learning, but not really a lot. I would really urge for that as a next thing in engineering schools. But yeah, in IIM, I think I did not really see a lot of influence, and both of them really complemented each other, is what I would say.
True, Savajay. It is makes sense together altogether. Yeah. So now follow-up question to Mayank Bhaiya. So we all know that you did your MBA from Kellogg. So what drove your decision to pursue an MBA at Kellogg after working across diverse roles in ITC and OYO? How did the MBA complement your previous experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I always wanted to kind of work in a more diverse environment, right? Work with people coming from different nationalities, different backgrounds, different perspectives, etc. So even from my time at IIT Guwahati, I did take my CAT exam as well, but I didn't go to interview at the IIMs because at that time also I was like, okay, I want to do an MBA from abroad where I can work in a more culturally diverse environment, etc. And I think looking back, it is a choice that you make. It's nothing is right and wrong. It's apples versus oranges in terms of your experience, right? So it depends on what you really want to do. I don't think my IIT background influenced that choice as much or anything. In my experience of working with OYO and with ITC, I think that was helpful for me because one, during my MBA itself, I had a much better understanding of what are the business challenges that people face, what are the strategies that they deploy. I also had understanding of two different sectors. Uh, that helped me, and more than my MBA, even in my job right now, right? Because I have that experience of an understanding of two different sectors. I come with a lot of expertise in operations, and that helps me talk to clients, share my perspective with them. When I'm thinking about problem solving, brings in innovative ideas from things that I've experienced in the past, right? Um, I would say 7 years of experience that I had is a little too much. Maybe I was having a great time and I wanted to continue with that. but it is kind of a choice that you make, right? It's you can right away go to IIMs, or like take a couple of years and then transition to an IIM or to a college in USA. I think all of these paths, there is nothing right and wrong. It's about your experience and how you want to, like, live your life. It'll not impact your career or your ability as much. It's about your experience in life, right? So that's how I would say it, right? And I've seen people, whether they go to IIMs without any experience, or they take a couple of years and they'll go, or they have more experience and then they switch to either of the MBA colleges. All of them, I've seen examples of success and failures in all of those aspects.
True, so like thank you, like Tushar and Mayank for having your take on this. Like foreign MBA and Indian MBA has been a constant question through all times, and we are proud to have alums like you. Now we'll shift to product specific questions.
So I'll take on from here. Really great insights on the world of consulting. So I would like to ask a question to Taruna ma'am. Uh, what does a typical day in the life of a product manager look like? Like, what are the responsibilities, outcomes, challenges? Ma'am, are you there?
Yes. So a
Yeah.
typical day looks like a lot of meetings. There are a lot of frameworks out there, how to write PRDs, how to write strategy docs, how to do this interesting thing, that interesting thing. But we do that maybe 2% of our time. The rest of the day really goes in aligning everybody on those 2% of the things, and just keeping iterating whatever you've written in that PRD doc a month ago or a week ago. So honestly, like, it's a lot of stakeholder communication, because as a PM, you're in the epicenter of product building. You are working with business analysts, you're working with engineers, designers, marketing folks, finance folks, legal folks in many, many cases. So your day just goes in communicating what you're doing for the product together to all of these stakeholders. Many times you're also gathering inputs from all of these people, trying to shape your product as you learn more. So PRD is really a living document. Any strategy or any such thing is bound to change as you get more and more inputs, and all these stakeholders of yours or partners of yours really keep giving you inputs as you proceed day in, day out. So that's really it, like doing a lot of conversations. I also split it in a way that it's really what you're taught as a 4-year-old: read, write, uh, speak, listen. So reading is whatever context is flowing through the company. What are the mission of the company? What is business critical for the company? What are other PMs doing that can influence your work? Writing is really assimilating whatever is happening around you to be able to make structured decisions. So writing PRD strategy docs is obviously one, but also writing your meeting notes, also writing your emails craftfully. All of that goes in writing. And then listening is when you're sitting in meetings, not just thinking, what am I going to say next, but intently listening to what the other person has to say, so that you're really building a point of view and you're really taking away from their expertise. And speaking is really, as a PM 101, that you have to be able to present your POV to get people along you. So it's really that, like, my day goes as what a 4-year-old days goes. Shravan, you might want to add something.
Thank you for those wonderful insights, ma'am. Now that we know how a day in the life of a PM goes, now to get there. So, Shravan sir, this question is directed at you. Like, is there a recommended pathway for aspiring product managers, particularly regarding the type of company to join as a recent graduate? Like, how different is it joining a startup or an established company?
Sure. So I think first and foremost, I kind of love the answer that Taruna said. It's the life of a PM is very chaotic. At least, so I don't call it chaotic. The word that I use is chaotic, right? It has a lot of order at a system level, but within there is a lot of chaos. But yeah, coming to the question that you were asking, so I think I don't typically believe in this that a lot of people believe, that you see a product management opening anywhere, you apply that 100 places, then it's like a funnel. The 10 places will call you, and then you'll give interviews at 2 places, and it is the case whether you are applying there or not. I think you should look at your career slightly other way around. One of the very good ways, which I think everybody talked about, was the function of intent. So what you do is you come up with like 10 good companies, like where you really, really want to be for whatever X number of reasons. It can be sheer because you love the area, right? It can be as simple because you find the product useful. It can be something that interests you because of the funding or the kind of growth in that market. It can be as simple as that you see there is a meaningful gap in the market and somebody has to solve it. You can come up with those sparks. So I keep telling people that in life, the only way to figure out whether you really want to be at a certain place or not is to understand this concept of a spark and a fire, right? There are a lot of sparks in life, which you call that I like this, right? And then typically over time, when you pursue that interest, do it for like 2 months or 3 months or 6 months, then you really understand that whether it did convert to a fire. It's like gym, right? You initially feel that, oh, I really want to be like, look like this, right? And then you continue doing it. And after 6 months, if you see meaning, you anyway continue it, right? So that's the first thing that I recommend, that figure out those 10, 15 places that you really, really feel that these are the places for me to go. And then the second thing that also a lot of people do make mistakes is they straight away goes in that I want to join Google now, right? Doesn't work, right? That's not how the world works. So you essentially have to figure out what are tier 3 companies, what are tier 2 companies, what are tier 1 companies, right? Now, first you have to figure out that do I have enough skill sets to essentially crack a role somewhere which I don't consider my dream company, right? But I consider that it's a good place for product to happen, and do I thrive and excel there, right? A very good path is what Taruna chose, right? She became successful at Wingify. She probably did very good work at Swiggy, and eventually she moved to a company where she probably aspired or she looked forward to, which is Microsoft or some other place. Same went for me at a lot of places. When I wanted to kind of do consulting for Booking.com, I had planned my career in such a way. So what you essentially do is you come up with some thought or structure for that kind of an assignment. And since you're an EPM, pick up any damn problem. Like for the longest time, when Swiggy didn't have, like, or Zomato didn't have a group ordering kind of a feature. And it was always something that people used to ask you, if there's a party, I want to order biryani and I want to order ice cream. I cannot do it in one, right? Now, this is a meaningful problem which you're facing every single day, right? 5 of your friends, you get together, everybody, you don't wait for 5 orders. You come up with some sort of structured solution around it. You do your discovery. Now, you send that across to people who essentially are hiring, right? And say that this is my POV on why I want to solve this problem. Now it does 2 things for the interviewer. First thing, a resume is not, it's just a collection of highlights. It doesn't tell anything about you. It's not a world anymore where, because for every PM opening, you will get probably 1,000 applications. It becomes almost impossible for somebody to stand, why somebody is standing out. So the first thing that you should essentially do is that come up with that structure of thought and say, this is how I want to solve it, right? You do that, it shows 2 things. One, it tells really about how Pranjal is thinking. That if there is something that's standing out, and the second thing, it shows intent. Yaar, maine to isko bola bhi nahi tha. I didn't even tell the person to do this, right? That person still did it, right? And that is where you kind of stand out and get that hook into the interview, right? The second thing that I keep telling people is there is always a sense of to do 2 things. One is something called company discovery, and the second thing is called interviewer discovery, right? 99% of people or 95% of people will have represented their career in some meaningful way on LinkedIn. There might be 5% people who don't need to do that, but 95% of the people would have written that what you have done. If you go to my profile, you would see, oh, he started with Flipkart. Then he went to logistics, right? Then he spent considerable time in streaming and real estate. And for the longest time, he was in education. So you can expect those kind of experiences and questions in the interview for that perspective. Or, for example, if you apply to Cred, right? Because of their design philosophy, that's what the company permeates as a philosophy across. You would expect somebody to focus on design and saying that, how do you look at good design, right? And that is where interview discovery helps you a lot. And a lot of times what happens is when you essentially get the first interview, at least you get the email ID of the person. And a lot of times, 99% of the time, the email ID is the first name and the second name, right? Where you will be able to figure out that who this person is on LinkedIn, and you essentially go and look at those profiles. That's the second step, actionable step that you can do. And the third step is, even if you fail, right, that assignment that you did build something called a proof of concept or proof of work, right? Which a lot of people call as the product portfolio, right? That you've even though you have not worked on those problems, but you've gone and checked out 5 different industries, 6 different industries, and you have something like a horizontal view of how an industry works. One of the things that I keep telling product managers is that a PM is not somebody like there is this very famous quote by Naval Ravikant. He says, specialization is for insects. That's what he says. And again, whether I agree, whether I disagree with it, but the thing that I'm trying to put across is you need to build a generalistic view, because you are, as a product manager, over time, you will be accountable for the whole shippable experience. Nobody is going to talk about that whether that one feature works, right? It is about the entire journey, which essentially works. Do you understand the journey well? Right? So you have to show that kind of accountability, that I understood what the problem was, what were the meaningful points around it, how did I prioritize them, how did I come up with the solution, how did I measure it, what were the pros and cons around it, right? And simultaneously, how do I essentially communicate it to my customer? Right? How do I tell that across? If that comes out in an assignment, I would understand that you know that you're not just accountable for a feature, you're really accountable for the value of the end user, right? And that communication has to come out. And your portfolio is a very good reflection of it. A lot of times people say that, see, product management programs, whatever programs that you do, right? It is not wise to expect that in 7 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks, you'll be able to become as good of a product manager who's worked for 10 years. That's a very wrong way to look at things. What you should look at is that, do I have the tools to really do discovery the right way? Do I have the tools to think analytically? Do I have and then consistency is a factor. One of the very, very underrated factors in life is persistence. The sheer reason that people become successful in life is because you only hear about the success point of view. Oh, he became an influencer. Like, I'll give you a very good example of this. A lot of people ask me, Shravan, itne followers kaise aaye? And I give a very good answer to them. I say, write for 1000 days without fail. You'll get the same number of followers that I got. But you have to write for 1000 days. Every single day without fail, you have to write, whether you're sick, whether you're not sick, whether there's a problem in the family, you're still writing. And that is an attitude that a good builder or a problem solver kind of carries, right? That failure is just a stepping stone. I agree to the fact that it is not easy. Like, I get that successes are which essentially drive people, but आपको ये पता होना चाहिए कि if there is a journey that I want to do for the next 10 years of my life, maybe in different domains, maybe in different places, the first anchor point of success or failure is just a step. Then there is a next step. Then there's the next step. People who meaningful do that and over time build a portfolio. Like, one of the very good examples is there was this person who used to work for TCS, and for the longest time, and I'm talking about 2018 or 19, he came to me and he said, "Bhaiya, मैं एक service company में काम करता हूँ. How do I transition to a product company?" I told him to make a portfolio. It took him 8 months, tons of failures, right, to essentially build that across. But do you know what happened after 8 months? After 8 months, he transitioned into Duolingo. Eventually became a senior PM there, and right now he's a staff PM at Reddit, right? And that is a true story. Now, in those 8 months, when everybody is saying, oh, you don't come from a good background, you don't have that ability to think, you don't have that pedigree, it's very hard, right? But how do you keep yourself grounded and say that what is under my control, I'll fix that. What's not in your hand should not be in your head, right? And you keep improving on your core functional competencies, and then you essentially tie that to what is the ideal competency that a product manager needs, and you showcase that through a portfolio, through your writing on LinkedIn, through reaching out to people, through understanding feedback in an interview, and you keep doing that, and you essentially excel in your first role. Yeah, I hope that helped.
Those were wonderful PM and consulting insights to be precise. Now, up next, and I hope the audience is learning a lot from this session. So now, up next, we have a fun activity planned for you guys to like engage this conversation. So we have some myths, and we'll be doing a quick myth buster round. Okay. So starting first with consulting, the first myth is consulting inherently leads to poor work-life balance due to constant travel and long working hours. So, what's your take on this, sir?
Tushar, you want to take this?
No, I see Mayank laughing, so yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, it depends, right? There is a lot of travel. We travel from every Monday to Thursday. I have a kid at my home. I have a wife here at home. It is hard for them to manage everything at home when I'm traveling, right? I miss them when I'm at the client sites. It is something that comes with consulting, right? But you get your weekends to yourself, right? You get to spend time with your family. You do get a lot of like PTOs. You get longer breaks when you can travel and really spend that time with your family, right? But travel is a part of it, and the if you are in your early career, in your early life, it is actually enjoyable because you're traveling to so many different locations. You're getting to experience new cities, new food, meeting new people all the time. But in later part of your career, once you have a family or have a kid, I think then you want to be more at home and travel less, right? But travel is a constant part of consulting. So I wouldn't say it is a myth, but I wouldn't say that it inherently leads to a difficult work-life balance, right? Really depends on your situation and what you are solving for.
Yeah, I guess I second that, and that's why I would not bust this myth regarding. So I will break it into two long working hours. I'll touch up first. I think long working hours is I we have to define long is simply define can be defined in a number, right? So what do you call long? I don't know if product managers or even other less than 10 12 hours, right? So on an average projects that are longer, it is all dependent on the project, and to some degree or extent you will start having control over choosing the project after 1.5 2 years maybe. So it's like choosing the company. You choose within the company right projects every now and then. On the work-life balance, I think everything that Mayank said, absolutely on the same page. Just one thing, I think there are a lot of avenues that the firm has also, and I think firms across actually consulting, have also introduced to help you with uh, a unique experiences. For example, we have experience of going abroad to a different BCG office in a totally different country, to US, Dubai, etc. To just experience that for 1 year, how does work goes there. We have experience like ambassadorship, where we do not the usual client work, but sit back for 6 months, relax, and do a different work internally. So there are more than possible avenues to help you with your career and personal balance. You have to figure that out. And also there are flex opportunities that the firm provides. So yes, while there is this travel and long working hours, there are also opportunities to balance that at the right amount when you need personally. And I have been fortunate to have that support. So yeah, I would
Yeah.
say there is a mix of that.
It comes with its ups and downs, right? If you're looking for a constant 9 to 5 job every day, coming home after it, it's not that, right? You will have periods of 16-hour days where you work really hard, you have to make things happen for the clients, you have to solve those problems, you have to be on top of things, right? And there are days when you are working for 8 hours and really relaxing, and then it's a laid back thing where you're doing something internal, right? So it comes with its ups and downs, right? But I wouldn't say like every day is a challenge for me. Like, in a month there is a week where I am like really working long hours, and maybe there are some other days like that, but other days it's totally fine.
And just one point for the early career and for the associates like you, I have seen and I have experienced it myself. When you join in, please hang on for first year. I mean, what happens is nowadays people are so impatient that they feel okay, it's done. 3 months, it's done. I promise this gets really better because you're just learning a very new and set way of doing things. In I think my 1.5 or second year, I was really feeling at ease and at peace, into the firm. When I started a new role recently, yes, I'm again back to that learning board. But I think once you start settling into that, a couple of year phase, you really feel at peace that you know the job well.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, first second year can feel a little more challenging. but after that you kind of know the job. And that is true for any job, right? Whether you are a
Yeah.
PM, right? You're learning the ropes, you're learning how to write PRDs, you're learning how to develop personas, etc. So it is challenging, but then once you know the job, it becomes easier.
Rightfully said, Tushar and my empire. Like somehow deep inside, we all do want a life like that eventually, maybe because that's what we are doing in college. So yes. So next we will be diverting to another myth.
Yeah, so those are wonderful insights from the consulting side. Now, to the product management side, this will be the last one for the day, and this is a bit more specific to Taruna ma'am, because a lot of students here viewing this are wondering that getting into a PM role or any non-core role for that matter depends a lot on if you're from a tier one college or not. So, what are your views on that?
I won't deny it because everybody around me is from tier one. I think I do have a lot of respect for people who come from IIT's bits, especially because you've shown that muscle to do the hard work and persistence. So 10 on 10 for that. If I were to also make a hiring decision, I would also have a bias for tier one. So you guys operate with that um, bias already, and that's a good thing in your favor. Other than that, I think I also personally feel that once you enter the industry, these titles and these biases take you so far. But if you really have to make your mark in the industry, it's again a grind, it's again the same hard work and persistence, and you can easily come over it. So I particularly don't come from a tier one. I tried my hands at IIT, failed miserably. But yeah, like once you're in the industry with your hard work, with your persistence, with your grit, you can actually grow in your career very well because day after day nobody is looking at you to say, oh, is this person coming from an IIT or a bits. Day on day they're looking at what you're producing as work, how easy or comfortable are you to work with, and what are the outcomes and impacts you're driving. As far as MBA is concerned, I still haven't found a good reason myself to do an MBA. I don't know if that bigger cost has enough ROI for me personally. A lot of people do get that ROI. I still don't know if I would get that ROI. Second, I think in terms of education, the best of institutes, be it Stanford, Harvard, anything out there, right? They all have courses, videos available out there for free on YouTube with the best of professors. So it's really on you whether you want to put in that hard work to be able to learn. The third part is about networking. I think today networking is democratized to death that you can actually meet up with the smartest of people working in the best of companies through events, through LinkedIn, through just getting out and start with your own company. So for MBA, I still haven't found a good reason myself, but yeah, I do respect all the grit and persistence and hard work with which so many of you would get into the best of institutes, and Tushar, Mayank have already done that feat. My husband is from IIM Bangalore too, so I feel jealous of him really every day because I see, he's much smarter and he carries that bias around. But yeah, I mean, it works both ways in my head. I have been pretty recently successful. My husband is decently successful. Everybody in this panel, all three of them are immensely successful. So it really depends that you have to keep doing the hard work at every stage. You cannot really say, oh, I've done an engineering from bit, so now everything in my life is going to be easy from there. It's never that. I'm starting a new job this week, so I know it is still day zero for me. I have to put the hard work no matter what I carry from the previous experiences or whatever achievements I've had in my past. They were all in past. So ideally you should never be looking in past living in past, and you should really be doing the hard work today and now to justify your position and give it the right justice. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking about that myth. So I hope so. We are ending the talk session now. It was such a jam-packed insights. I'm sure it helped the audience with it will go a long way in helping them choose careers between consulting and PM and other non-core roles as well. I'm sure you all four of you had a great time answering these questions, as much fun as we had making them with our team. So yeah, I mean, great to have you guys. Uh,
Yeah. Thank you
Amazing.
everyone for giving your valuable time on this wonderful session. So on a concluding note, I'd like to take you back to your undergraduate times, like when you were in your fourth year, hustling through classes, labs, looking after internships, placements, and basically hustling around in campus. So what's that one piece of advice you would like to give to your younger self that would make a change in his career or maybe in his life?
I think I'll tell you very straightforward. Cherish your relationships. Make the most valuable thing ever. Right? I have had the best of friends from different backgrounds, and whenever I felt low and like down in life, it were those people who essentially brought me up again. I think over time, as you realize, maybe in next 10, 15 years, when you essentially reach to a point when you've spent like 10 years in the industry, you realize that more than wealth, more than fame, more than anything, people crave for meaning in life. And true meaning is around the people around you who make you better every day. So cherish your friends, don't take them lightly. And have the gala time. It's the time to fail. Like I always say, 20s to 30s is the time when you can afford to fail as much times as you. So don't anchor too much, don't stress yourself. Be persistent. See, caution without fear is a great thing. Caution with fear is a bad thing. That you're doing it for some reason that you're fearful about. So don't be afraid to fail. Give your best, try out multiple things. Koi dikkat nahi hai, and figure out something that you really love at the end of your life, right? And that is something that I would say. So cherish your relationships. Don't be afraid to fail, and probably just try interesting things. Be curious. Yeah.
Yeah, very rightly said. I think I would say the same, right? Focus on your learning in initial part. Don't worry too much. Take risks. Right, if you want to do something, go do it. 20s to 30s is the time when you kind of take risks, learn more about the world, find your passion, find what you want to
एग्जिट
do
कर ले
for the
ब्रो.
long term. So you basically enjoy things in the long term, right? I think that would be my take as well.
I think I have two pieces of advice. One, which I had done myself, living in the present. Live in the present, enjoy the college life because you only realize the value of it once it's gone. I still crave for it, even after having two colleges. I mean, this is the best time, dude. I, you could never have a better time than college days. That is what I had done well. What I had not done well is taking risk, as Mayank and Shravan already said. I think take risk. This initial years is not going to make much of a difference to you. You're not going to lose crores over it. You're just going to lose some sleepless nights maybe. But do that.